Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astotra Satashi Shimadesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astotra Satashi Shimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnu Pada Srila Gorakishwar Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnu Pada Srila Sachitananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnu Pada Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhat Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhat Das Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prema Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Syamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Yamuna Maya Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Ananta Kuti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai ISKCON Vartama Guru Vrinda Ki Jai Samveda Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo glories to assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthana. So, my name is Bhakti Dimitri. This will be my attempt to give another class. It's from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17, text number 16. Before I start, I would like to offer my obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. Om Jnana Timarantasya Jnana Jana Shalakaya Chakshura Unmilitam Vina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manabhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Tatati Svapadantikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we'll start with Sanskrit. Again 17.16. Manaprasadasam yatvam manam atma vinigraha bhavasam sudirityetat tapo manasam uchite. Manaprasada, satisfaction of the mind. Syam yatvam, being without duplicity towards others. Monam, gravity. Atma, of the self. Vinigraha, control. Bhava, one's nature. samsuddhihi, purification, iti, thus, etat, this, tapa, austerity, manasam, of the mind, uchite, is said to be. Translation and comments by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind. Purport. To make the mind austere is to detach it from sense gratification. It should be so trained that it can be always thinking of doing good for others. The best training for the mind is gravity in thought. One should not deviate from Krishna consciousness and must always avoid sense gratification. To purify one's nature is to become Krishna conscious. Satisfaction of the mind can be obtained only by taking the mind away from thoughts of sense enjoyment. The more we think of sense enjoyment, the more the mind becomes dissatisfied. In the present age, we unnecessarily engage the mind in so many different ways for sense gratification, and so there is no possibility of the mind's becoming satisfied. The best course is to divert the mind to the Vedic literature, which is full of satisfying stories, as in the Puranas and Mahabharata. One can take advantage of this knowledge and thus become purified. The mind should be devoid of duplicity, and one should think of the welfare of all. Silence means that one is always thinking of self-realization. The person in Krishna consciousness observes perfect silence in the sense. Control of the mind means detaching the mind from sense enjoyment. One should be straightforward in his dealings and thereby purify his existence. All these qualities together constitute austerity in mental activities. So today we're going to be speaking about austerity. There's actually a few more texts before this one that I also would like to read. In relates to austerity in Bhagavad Gita. Text number 14 is the austerity of the body consists in worship of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the spiritual master, and superiors like the father and mother, and in cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, and non-violence. So this is austerity of the body. Then you have austerity of the speech. It consists of speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature. So this is in regards to our speech. We should be very gentle in how we speak with people all the time. And that satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind. So we should be simple, we should be self-control, and we should our existence in general should be pure. And this is the text that I chose today. Will be speaking about how to understand the proper means and actually how to understand the benefit of austerity, because austerity is called tapa in Sanskrit, and it is recommended that even in the renounced order of life, we should never give up a performance of yagya, dana, and tapasya. So even if we renounce sannyasi, we should still continue doing those things. Because austerity is one of it's actually the only way to achieve any powers, and only by austerity we're able to fully realize ourselves. Like one of the examples is Lord Brahma. He was able to realize himself only through performing austerity. And Prabhupada actually said that real austerity means to not make any endeavors for sense gratification, but just simply serve Krishna, and that is real austerity. And this chapter is chapter number 17 in Bhagavad Gita, is dealing with faith, and faith is not a religion. It's a type of activity that we involve ourselves in, like varieties of work, and the best work is poverty. It's according to injunctions of Vedic literatures. So if we accept the laws of God and we follow them, then our heart eventually will be purified. But those who do not follow the scriptural injunctions, they entangled in actions and reactions. And one thing about karma is that our own activities actually enslave us, And just by changing the work that we're doing, and by changing our lifestyle, a lot of things could be also changed in terms of our reactions. And chapter 16, before this one, is speaking about what glides down this, the person to the demonic species. What stops us from being from possibility of liberating, and what entangles us in this material world. And there's a verse that says, Trividham narakasidam tvaram nashanam atmana kama krodas tata lobas tasmat tatrayam tijat. So there are 3 gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. And every sane man should give this up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. And eventually, this chapter 16 is kind of ending on this note, but chapter 17 is precisely giving us the cure for all these very sinful things. And those things are dana, yagya, and tapasya. This will help us to fight lust, anger, and greed. And in terms of different situations and modes of nature, there are differences in manner of performing sacrifices, austerities, and charities, and they are not all conducted on the same level. Like there's different types of austerities, as I mentioned earlier, of the body, of speech, and mind. I want to say a few more things about Lord Brahma. He was the first spiritual master in the universe, and he could not understand how he came to be in a lotus seat. And while thinking of creating the material world, he could not understand the proper direction for his creative work. And while engaged in thinking underwater, Brahmaji heard twice the syllables of tapa, and eventually the knowledge. He was meditating, and everything was revealed to him in the heart. When he heard the sound, he tried to find a speaker, but searching everywhere on all sides, he couldn't locate. So he was just engaged in penances. So for us, in practicing bhakti yoga, we can also try to engage in austerity. The best austerity for the mind is when we chant Hare Krishna mantra, Maha Mantra. That austerity can alone can solve so many imperfections within our heart, and given us an opportunity to understand Krishna. So, because there's no difference between chanting Hare Krishna mantra, those sound vibration, and personal presence of Lord Krishna. So when we chant the Maha Mantra, it's like we are in direct association with the Supreme. There's another text, Ashradhya hutam datam tapastaptam gatam chayat asat iti uchati partha nachatat pretya noyaha. Anything done as sacrifice, charity, or penance without faith in the Supreme or Sanaprita is impermanent. It is called asat, and it is useless both in this life and in the next. So anything done without a transcendental objective, whether it be sacrifice, charity, or penance, is useless. Therefore, in this verse, it is declared that such activities are abominable. Everything should be done for the Supreme and Krishna consciousness. Without such faith and without the proper guidance, there can never be any fruit. And in the Vedic scriptures, faith in the Supreme is advised. In the pursuit of all Vedic instructions, the ultimate goal is understanding of Krishna. No one can obtain success without following this principle. Therefore, the best course is to work from the very beginning in Krishna consciousness under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. This is the way to make everything successful. But at the same time, we should say that easy life and achieving perfection they actually don't go well together. Yeah. So if we try to engage in austerity and properly try to do that, as mentioned in the 17th chapter, if we just follow the instructions of Bhagavad Gita and live in accordance to these instructions, we can achieve that perfection even within one lifetime. So Sometimes I go out on book distribution and I mention this word austerity to people, and people actually, some of them, they have never heard that word before. And it's funny, because living life without performing spiritual activities, it's kind of whatever you have to do. Even though austerity in terms of waking up early and going to work is one type of austerity that people can do. But the best type of austerity is when we try to surrender everything that we have, our intelligence, our mind, senses, and the body to Krishna. And that way we can satisfy the Supreme and get His mercy. Because that the only ways to do that is to be engaged in austerity. And I guess this class was a little bit last minute, so that's all I was able to prepare. And maybe if you guys have any questions, you can go ahead.
One quick addition to
for the internet.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Very nice class, thank you. I was reading Brahma Samhita, and in the introduction Prabhupada wrote, while Brahma was meditating, he heard the flute of Sri Krishna, and that flute sound came through his mouth as Brahma Gayatri, which is the Gayatri Mantra.
Yeah.
And when he uttered the Gayatri, he got Brahmanical initiated.
Yeah.
I just thought that was very wonderful.
That's how he became the first spiritual master. Yeah, thank
Hari
you.
Bol.
Thank you for this.
So very nice class, Prabhuji. So you mentioned, austerity. So I was just thinking, you mentioned that chanting, waking up early, surrendering everything. What if I feel that those are very difficult? What is very basic austerity that, if you feel that you can't even do those three that you mentioned, is there something that's very basic that someone can do?
Well, the best thing we can do is to try to offer something to Krishna. For instance, we can go to the grocery store and buy some bhoga, come back home and offer it to Krishna. This would be also an austerity, because this is actually not a selfish activity. And whatever we do that is not selfish, and that is not something that we necessarily like to do or used to be doing, something that causes us at least a little bit of something that is not does not give us liking, in doing, or something that is not done with a selfish motive could be considered an austerity. So when we offer foods to Krishna, this is one of the probably the simplest way to perform an austerity in that sense.
You mentioned when you go on book distribution and you give this idea of austerity. If someone has never heard of this word, how would you define it for them to understand it?
So it's voluntarily accepting something that we don't like to do. That is the austerity. Engaging in something that is could be beneficial, like the taste might be a little difficult or bitter, tastes bitter in the beginning, but very nectarian, has a lot of benefit in the end, rather than something that could be seemingly very pleasurable, but in the end causes suffering. So this is my understanding of what austerity is.
Thank you, Dimitri. I have another. Does anyone else have a question? So, when you go out on book distribution and they ask you what type of austerities do monks perform, what would you tell them?
As was mentioned, we rise up early and we have an individual practice, meditation, chanting japa. That's one austerity. And we also engaged in services. We are trying to serve Krishna. One time I actually was having a conversation with some of the devotee, and I was reminded, standing by the kitchen, it was me and Daniel that we are here serving the Lord. Like we whatever we do, and we're serving Krishna. So we should not waste any of our time and engaged in austerity. Like the two things that a real Brahmin should be doing while living in an ashram is to study the spiritual literature, study Srila Prabhupada's books, and engage in deity worship. So, and in many things that we do around the temple, all the things that we have, our intelligence, our mind, our senses, and body is engaged in performing these austerities. And it's a great opportunity to overcome the false ego, the false prestige, and attain the qualification to eventually be able to see Krishna. So this is the best welfare work in austerity. Jai. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending and listening. Hare Krishna. It's going to be served outside. Okay, so there's prasadam served outside.